Elena Voss had spent her whole life being underestimated. She was born into the Ashwood Pack, a small territory tucked between two great mountains, and from the moment she could walk, people looked at her as if she was less than the others around her. She was an Omega, the lowest rank in pack society, and worse, no one had ever seen her wolf appear. Elders whispered that she was broken. Children laughed at her behind cupped hands. Even her own relatives spoke about her as if she could not hear them, saying things like, "Poor girl, she got nothing special," or, "What a shame, such a plain little thing." What none of them knew was that Elena's wolf had never failed her, not even once. She had a wolf, silver and quick and strong, but she had made a choice years ago to keep it hidden from the world. That choice was born on the worst night of her life, when she was only 12 years old. It happened during a raid from a rival pack. Elena's father was the pack's beta, a steady and kind man who always put his people first. When the attackers came, he fought to protect his family and his home. Elena remembered the sound of growls in the darkness, the smell of smoke drifting over the rooftops, and her mother's scream when her father did not get back up. Her mother survived that night, but she carried a wound on her shoulder that never fully healed, a mark that ached every time the weather turned cold. After that night, Elena noticed something strange. The attackers had studied her family before they came. They knew her father's fighting style. They knew which pack members could shift quickly, and which ones needed more time to change. They had watched, and they had planned, and that careful planning had cost her father his life. From that day forward, young Elena made a private vow. She would never let anyone learn what she was truly capable of. If people did not know her strength, they could never use it against her, and they could never plan around it. So she buried the truth about her wolf deep inside herself, only calling on it in complete privacy, in hidden clearings far from pack eyes, where she taught herself to run and hunt and move in her wolf form without a single witness. But her real training happened in her human body, in the years that followed. Every morning before sunrise, while the rest of the pack slept, Elena rose and trained alone. She taught herself to move quietly through the forest, to read the weight and balance of an opponent, to strike where it truly counted, instead of where it merely looked impressive. She found an old retired warrior at the edge of the territory, a quiet man named Soren, who had once served 3 different alphas before age slowed his body. He recognized something in young Elena that others missed, a fire and a discipline rare in someone so young, and he agreed to teach her everything he knew about blades, about balance, about reading a fight before it even began. For 10 years, Elena trained in secret, while the rest of the pack believed she was simply a weak Omega who spent her time gathering herbs and mending clothes. She let them believe it. She smiled when they pitied her. She said nothing when they mocked her at gatherings. Inside, she grew sharper every single year, like a blade quietly being sharpened in a dark room where no one thought to look. When Elena turned 22, the Great Northern Summit was called, a gathering of every pack in the region, presided over by Cale Draven, the Alpha King of the Northern Territories. Cale was known across the land for his strength, his cold judgment, and his complete lack of patience for weakness of any kind. He had built his territory into the strongest in the north, through discipline and through ruthless standards, and he expected every pack under his rule to meet those standards without excuse. The summit brought representatives from every pack, including Ashwood. Elena attended as part of her pack's delegation, standing quietly near the back, while alphas and betas exchanged greetings, and old rivalries simmered beneath polite words. It was there, in front of hundreds of witnesses, that Cale Draven first noticed her. He was walking the line of gathered pack members, offering brief words to each delegation, when his eyes landed on Elena. She stood differently than the others, calm and still, without the nervous energy most young pack members showed in his presence. Something about her stillness annoyed him, though he could not explain why. He asked the Ashwood Alpha about her, and the Alpha, eager to please the powerful king, laughed and explained that she was simply an Omega with no wolf worth mentioning, harmless and unremarkable. Cale studied her for a long moment, then said, loud enough for the surrounding crowd to hear, that she was the weakest specimen he had ever seen wear a pack crest. The words landed like a slap across the courtyard. Some people laughed nervously, Others looked away in second-hand embarrassment. Elena's own pack members lowered their eyes, ashamed to be associated with her in that moment. Elena did not flinch. She had heard worse from smaller people her entire life, and there was something almost funny about hearing it from someone so powerful, someone who knew nothing about her at all. But something in her, something that had been quiet for 10 long years, finally stirred. She stepped forward, out of the crowd, and spoke clearly enough for everyone nearby to hear. She said that the Alpha King's judgment seemed hasty for a man who had never seen her fight. The courtyard went silent. No one spoke to Kale Draven that way, especially not an unranked Omega from a small pack. Kale's advisors expected him to dismiss her instantly, perhaps punish her boldness. Instead, something flickered across his face, a mixture of surprise and grim amusement. He asked what she was proposing. Elena answered simply that she would prove her judgment wrong, in whatever manner he chose. The court erupted into murmurs, and within moments, Kale's advisors had shaped the challenge into something far grander than Elena intended. She would face his 3 elite warriors, Ronan, Bastion, and Freya, each a decorated fighter with years of battle experience behind them. The match would take place at the next full moon gathering, in front of every pack in the north. And to make the humiliation complete, Kale declared that Elena would not be permitted to shift into her wolf, since everyone assumed she had little wolf strength to offer anyway. Elena accepted without a moment of hesitation, and the crowd gasped at her calm certainty. Word of the challenge spread across every territory within days. People placed bets, though almost all of them wagered against her. Even her own pack members quietly hoped she would withdraw before the humiliation became too great. Kale, for his part, expected the entire matter to end quickly and quietly. Privately, he almost regretted the challenge, imagining an Omega getting hurt over something as small as wounded pride, though he would never have admitted such a thought aloud. The night of the full moon arrived, and the training courtyard of the Northern Territory filled beyond capacity. Torches lined the stone walls, and pack members from every allied territory crowded close, to witness what many assumed would be a short and painful lesson. Elena walked into the circle wearing simple training clothes, her hair tied back, her face calm. She looked, to most observers, exactly as unremarkable as everyone had always said she was. Ronan came first, confident and quick, certain the match would end within seconds. He rushed forward with the easy arrogance of someone who had never truly been tested. Elena watched his weight shift, read the angle of his shoulders, and stepped aside at the exact right moment, using his own forward motion against him. Within 4 movements, Ronan found himself flat on his back, staring up at the night sky in stunned confusion, the crowd falling into an uneasy hush around him. Bastion entered next, more cautious after watching his friend fall. He circled Elena carefully, testing her reactions with small feints, before committing to any real attack. For a moment, it seemed as though his caution might pay off, but Elena had spent 10 years learning to read exactly this kind of hesitation, and she waited patiently until he finally overextended on a strike, then redirected his momentum and brought him down with the same quiet precision. The laughter that had rippled through the crowd earlier had completely disappeared. Freya came last, and she was different from the other 2. She had heard the murmurs building in the crowd, had watched her fellow warriors fall, and she approached Elena with genuine respect rather than arrogance. The 2 women exchanged blow after blow in a fight that had the entire courtyard rising to its feet, neither one giving ground easily. For several long minutes, it seemed the match might end in a draw, or perhaps even tip in Freya's favor. But Elena had trained for exactly this kind of test, patient and searching, waiting for the smallest opening. When it finally came, she took it without hesitation, ending the match with the same calm control she had shown from the very first movement. 3 elite warriors, each trained and trusted by the Alpha King himself, lay defeated in the training circle. Elena had not shifted once. She had not even raised her voice. Her breathing remained steady, her expression calm, as if the entire fight had cost her nothing at all. The courtyard fell into complete silence, and then slowly, that silence gave way to something else entirely, a stunned and spreading realization. This woman, dismissed only days earlier as the weakest person in the Northern Territories, had just defeated 3 of its finest warriors, using nothing but skill built quietly, year after year, by someone the world had refused to truly see. Kael Draven stood at the edge of the circle, watching in a silence of his own. He had expected to feel nothing, or perhaps a distant satisfaction at being proven right about a small and unimportant challenge. Instead, he felt something closer to shame settling heavily in his chest, and beneath that shame, something he did not expect at all, a genuine and unwelcome respect. He walked forward, through a crowd that parted silently to let him pass, and stood before Elena, in front of the very people who had witnessed his earlier judgment of her. He told them plainly that he had been wrong. He said that true strength did not always announce itself loudly, and that he had let his own assumptions blind him to what stood directly in front of him. Elena did not gloat, and she did not smile with satisfaction at his admission. She only looked at him steadily and told him, quietly enough that only he could hear, that being underestimated had kept her alive more times than her wolf ever could have. She explained, in a few simple words, that hiding her strength had not come from weakness, but from a hard lesson learned as a child, one she did not owe him or anyone else an explanation for. Then she turned and walked away, leaving the powerful Alpha King standing alone in the circle, surrounded by his fallen warriors and his own quiet reckoning. By morning, word of what had happened traveled across every territory in the north. People spoke of the Omega, who had defeated 3 elite warriors without ever calling on her wolf, and slowly, the story of Elena Voss changed from one of pity to one of quiet awe. She returned to her pack not as the girl everyone had once dismissed, but as someone whose calm strength could no longer be ignored by anyone, including the king who had once called her weak.